Hey everybody, making a quick video here to talk you through how to get audio into your Unity project and then talking about the different parameters that you can manipulate when you bring audio in, especially how that relates to just basic audio in a 3D VR application. So it's really easy actually to get audio in. Unity will accept WAV files, AIFF files, OGG files like OGG files are sort of like an MP3, also accept MP3 files. There's a lot of different things to take into consideration when you're dealing with either should I use an MP3 or a WAV file. The general rule, and this is an oversimplification, but probably all, if you're just like trying to get basic audio in, this is all you probably need to consider. If you have short files, so you have like a sound effect you want to use that fires off a lot of times, but you're going to use it and it's like, really, really small, like, a second or something. You can use a WAV file. If you have a longer thing, such as background music, like music that you want to play just as the user is playing your game, you probably want to use an MP3. We can go into more details about that when we're face to face. This has to do with like compression and how do you want to utilize the CPU and the RAM and things like that. But that's just generally a good rule of thumb. So keeping that in mind, just want to show you a few things, how you can get some audio in, and then how you can manipulate that audio in Unity. So first thing you want to do is grab some audio, right? You can use audio from anywhere. So you can use music that you like, that you have, or sound effects or speech or whatever you want. For sake of simplicity, I'm going to the asset store here. And I'm going to go to audio and just click on that tab. And then go down here and just limit it to free assets. And then see what we've got here. I'm going to zoom this out just a little bit. And I'm going to grab this thing here. It says casual game sounds. And if you're following along and you're looking at this, it's probably going to say like add to my assets, and then it's going to log you into the Unity thing here. Mine changes to dark mode. And then it'll say like add to my assets, and then it'll say open in Unity. If you click open in Unity, it's going to pull you back to the editor here. And then it will open up your package manager. And this is just showing all of the different things, right, that you've downloaded that are official packages, plugins or whatever you want to think of it as for the engine. So we want to grab that, and you notice here it's like, well, what do I can't do anything, right? You want to make sure you pull this package manager window out far enough so you can see these things over here. It says download. This is pretty big. This is oh no, I'm hitting the 4K textures. I want to do that one. I was like, this is really big. This is only 8 megabytes, the 4K texture one. This is just good to point out here. The 2.45 gigabytes, that's a lot. And you want to be really careful about adding that kind of stuff to a project. This one, which I meant to click on, is 8 megabytes. It's great, nice and small. Yours, if you're following along, will say download. I've already downloaded this in the past, so I could re-download it, or I can just hit import. Hit import, and it's going to pop up here, and you'll see like all the stuff that you're pulling in your project. And these are a bunch of WAV files because they're super short. They're little sound effects, VFX that we're gonna, or sorry, SFX that we're gonna use in our game here. This is a demonstration. So I'll hit import. It's gonna do its little thing, importing stuff, do some compressions, all kinds of stuff like that, and it's gonna make a folder over here in my project, and it's called Casual Game Sounds. If you click on that and we go to our inspector, you can actually see all of these different sounds, and you'll see the waveforms here. And you can play them like that, which is pretty cool. I'm not sure if you guys are hearing that or not. Let me see. Oh, it's going through my Oculus. Just sitting next to me here. Just sitting next to me. Yeah, let's see. Can you hear? Oh, yeah, it's going to give me an error. And then hopefully you can hear this now. If not, I apologize. But usually you're like a little doink, doink, doink kind of sound. Say you're really happy with that sound. You're like, yeah, I want to use DMCGS07 in my game, right? Again, any sort of sound that you're wanting to bring in. How do you get that into your project? It's really easy. You want to think about two different things at first here, right? What type of audio is it, and what type of role is it trying to serve? So if you're thinking about music, like music you just want to play in the background, right? Or is it like something that you want to have happen when something happens, right? So it's like when I touch this thing or when I grab this object, I want this audio to play, right? And I know a lot of you are making games and sort of like, tennis or like badminton or something, right? When you hit something, right? You make contact with something, do you want to play some audio, right? To have that like, impact have a sound, right? That kind of thing. It all depends like what you want to do and how you're going to use this audio. Just to demonstrate though, I'm going to put this audio on this cube. And what I'm going to want to do is in VR, when I grab this cube, I want the audio to play, right? So it's again, sort of like, going on that sort of like highlighting, interacting, giving some feedback to the user that they have done something correct, right? Grab it and it comes to your hand and then blink, makes that little sound. So to do that, it's actually pretty simple. I'm going to collapse these things here. I'm going to collapse my grab interactable. And I'm going to click Add Component. And I'm going to start typing audio. And you'll see all of this stuff here. We'll go into some more detail about what these are, but for right now, you have a lot of different options, and we want to click on audio source. Okay, so zooming out just a little bit here. Well, actually, a lot bit. Hopefully this comes across on Zoom. If it doesn't, we can talk about this face to face more. You can see this big blue thing, this big blue sphere. That is what's called your roll off. That's the range that this audio will be playing in. If you notice, that's really big. That's really, 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 really big, right? Because this is the cube right here. That giant blue sphere was the maximum range that you could hear this audio playing from this cube. And imagine now, right, what we've done really is created a little stereo here. This like little cube is kind of like a stereo now, and it can play whatever audio we want. You'll be able to hear it anywhere within this big blue sphere, which is basically everywhere in this little scene that I have set up right now. So that's too big, right? That's way too big. So how do we edit that? Well, let's look at the audio source that we added in. Okay. So we have this thing now, this yellow audio source. There's a whole bunch of different data here that you can play with, and we can talk about in more detail, just to kind of get like the general stuff set up for you. We have this thing called an audio clip. This is where we want to put our audio. So this is the MP3, the WAV file, whatever thing that you're bringing in. For us, I was saying it is this sound that I dragged in. So like all the other components we've been practicing in the class, I'm going to drag that in. And now I've associated this audio clip with this cube, right, and this audio source. And then other things on here, we can mute it. You might think like, well, why would you want to mute it? The important thing is that you can expose this, so you can be muting things like by touching stuff. Like you can go over to a radio and turn it off, right? And that's just like you're just muting it by interacting with it or something like that. And then these other ones we'll talk about later. These are more advanced effects, and for a lot of folks, you probably don't even need to. You're probably never going to play with spatializing or these other reverb zone things, but we'll dig into those in a bit. Play on awake is really important. So what this means is if you have this ticked, that tick box, there's a check there, then this sound will start playing immediately on what's called the awake function, the awake method, which means as soon as your app starts, it'll just go. So if I were to hit start here, it would go boing, like as soon as I opened up the app, and that's all. It would just say boing, which would be pretty weird, right? So for any audio that you're going to want to interact with, any kind of thing like hitting something and it's playing some audio or touching something or whatever, you don't want this ticked. You don't want it to. What you want to do is actually tell it when to play, right? I don't want to play. You don't want it to play when the app starts. It's like I want it to play when I want it to start, right? So you actually have to uncheck that. It's one of the most common errors. You'll be working in your app or something, and you'll go into play mode and you'll hear boing, 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 like some sound just going, and it'll drive you crazy because you're like, what is that? And it's invariably it's you have one of your audio sources somewhere that is inappropriately ticked play on awake, and it doesn't need to be. Okay, loop. Self-explanatory, right? It's going to loop. It'll keep going. This can be really nice if you want something to like play like while you're holding something, right? So say you grab an object and you just want like a humming sound or something to play so the user gets feedback. You may want it to loop. For most sound effects, like grab the thing, you probably don't need it to, right? You just want blink, blink, Like you make like a little sound when you pick it up and that's it. For demonstration, just for today, I'm going to tick this. It's just so that you can hear it. You know, it's easier to see that the effect is happening because it can be very subtle if it just plays one time. Priority, we can skip for now. This can be an issue if you have lots and lots and lots and lots of audio, but that probably won't be the case for 460, but maybe if we have to come back to that, we will. Volume is the overall volume of the sound. So 1 is maximum, 0 is completely quiet. Pitch is pretty cool. You can 1 as a pitch value is the base pitch of without any kind of transposition or changing of the original sound file. However, you can go all the way up to 3 innately, just as part of this this component, or which is 3 times like higher, or you can go down. And what's really kind of cool is you go to 0, and this is really low. It's going to pitch shift it very low, and then you go into the negatives, and you go to -3. What's cool about the system here is that once you get to 0, it doesn't keep getting lower. It starts playing the audio backwards. So this is if you wanted to reverse something, which can be kind of cool if you want to play something backwards for some reason in your app. The one that's super important. So all this stuff is like these are things you probably maybe want to know, or they might come up at some point. The one that is absolutely critically important is this spatial blend. So I'm going to hover over it, you get the tooltip here. It sets how much this audio source is treated as a 3D source. 3D sources are affected by spatial position and spread. If 3D pan level is 0, all spatial attenuation is ignored. Okay, so what this means is all the way to the left, it's going to be innately, it's going to be a 2D audio source. What that means is it does not get any kind of 3D position. So that means this audio source, right? If this is set to 2D, it doesn't care that it's on this cube. It's just going to play audio in your headphones in 2D. It's going to be like it's just playing in stereo, like you're listening to it on your headset. 2D audio is great for something like music. That say you're in your game and you just want like background music playing, right? As the person's running around. And that's called non-diegetic music. It's just music that the person is listening to, but it's not in the world. Like it's not something you're interacting with. It's something you can walk up to, right? To contrast that, diegetic music, so the opposite, is music that's playing out of like a stereo. So you actually walk over to the thing and it's music that's coming out of that place in 3D space. This is how you control that here. So if you want just music that's like playing out of your headphones, you set it to 2D and you play your music out of this audio source. However, if you want it to be attached to this cube and play from that cube's position, which is actually probably the majority of the audio for VR, you want it to feel like it's in front of you, you actually have to set this all the way to 3D. So that for most of your audio, you're going to want this set to 3D all the way over to the right. Otherwise, it will sound flat. It's just going to be playing out of your headset speakers, and it won't sound like it's getting positional data. It's a little abstract, but you will, once you do it, you'll see like, oh, that makes sense. Like it sounds like it's in the app with me in front of me. The only thing we really need to talk about is this. This is the min and max distance. And this is that blue thing that we started with here. So the minimum distance is this little tiny, whoops, this little tiny blue sphere here. And the max was when I zoomed all the way out. And you saw that giant sphere. That is what's called the roll-off. That's the distance that you can hear the audio playing. For most of your apps I've been seeing for 460, if you're watching this as part of ISU's 460 CTK class, for most of your apps and most VR apps, honestly, the roll-off you want is actually really small because it's around you, it's in your space, right? So this default one is way too big. Like this is 500 meters. You don't need it to be 500 meters. In fact, most of the projects for this class, you're building things that are like 15 meters across, 20 meters across, like the entire experience is pretty small. So you want to turn this way, way down. So just for demonstration, I'm going to turn this to 10. 10 is that big, which means it covers the entire platform. So no matter what, if this were a bigger platform, you'd be able to hear that audio anywhere because we're within the blue sphere, right? However, what's the benefit is that it can actually attenuate. You can hear it like fading as you move forwards and backwards from this audio. And I'll demonstrate that. I'll make this actually a little bit bigger here. Except put the 1 there. And then drop this down. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. Like that. But this is so I can move around. I'm going to put a teleportation area on this, and I need, we got an interaction manager. We need a provider and a locomotion system. We talked about this in class. I'm just doing this super fast so that I can move around. And then I'm going to have this audio playing here. And now I'll move around and you'll be able to see that as this is playing on loop, when we start our game, playing in 3D from the position of that cube, as I get closer to it, you'll hear it kind of rolling off. The one last thing before I demo that is to show this little curve here. And there's these kind of key points here, right? Where you can change the curve. And this is showing over the max volume. So this is the volume here. And this is the distance. So this is the 10, right? You can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's showing how does that roll off happen. It means like as I get further away from the object, how does the volume go down? How does it attenuate or fade? The only thing you want to be aware of is if you do stuff like this, it's unnatural, right? Which could be kind of cool. The further you get away, it's going to get louder for some reason. It should be kind of strange, but maybe cool. But also is that you have to, at some point, have this get to 0. So right now it's set as far away, 10, right? It never gets all the way down to 0, which means no matter how far away I am from this sound, you'll always be able to hear it. Does that make sense? Like this never went all the way down. So that's not good. You actually need this to go all the way down. So you're gonna have to check. You have to drag. I'm just clicking this key here and pulling it down. And then I'm gonna reset this because this is kind of bananas and super weird. And you can do that just by going up here to volume roll off and clicking. I'm gonna click linear, and it makes it a linear roll off, which is just obviously a straight line. And this is fine. Like we'll check how this goes. It means that when we get to 10 Unity units away, 10 meters, I won't be able to hear the audio anymore. Okay, it's a whole bunch of stuff I dumped at you. The interesting thing about the audio experience in Unity is that if you try it, I think you'll understand it pretty quickly because it's pretty intuitive, especially for VR, that you need 3D audio, right? And then you want to position it in space where you want it. And then play with how the roll off happens. Like, is this organic? Does it feel right? Is that like too loud, right? Or whatever. So I'll go ahead and hit play. The other interesting thing about just doing this video and showing it to you is that the audio is going to get compressed. This won't sound the same if you're watching this video with headphones on as it would if you go and try this with a VR headset on. And that's because of just the compression and like recording video and me just recording this for you. So if it doesn't sound right or sounds kind of weird on the video, just know that it will sound very different and certainly much more immersive if you go and jump in and try it yourself. Okay, so we'll go ahead and check this to show you what's happening there. And then I'll stop this video and I'm going to make another one where I show how to put some music in and then how to interact with audio as a sort of second part for this. So hit play and let's see how this looks. Okay. Oh, I gotta hit play. So I did this. I didn't hit play on awake. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm just gonna talk into my microphone, but I did not hit play on awake. Ooh, it's bugging out there. What's going on with that? That's kind of cool. It's like flickering. Hopefully that stops. I don't know why that's happening. But I didn't hit play on awake, so I was sitting there and it wasn't making any noise, right? But I'm gonna hit it now. I'm gonna let this go, and it should just be like doinking, like doink, 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 when I jump in the VR. Yeah, that sounds super annoying. Okay. So you can hear now, I can't hear it because I'm too far away from it, right? I'm going to slowly move forward. It's gotten louder. Throw it. You see, and grab it, and it should like, oh. Yep, there we go. Where is it? Hello. And that's what's interesting is you probably can't hear that, but even without having a spatializer plugin or like really doing anything special to the audio, Unity approximates what that sounds like. So it does sound like it's like spatially going behind me. It's a pretty good effect. It has to do with how the Quest is working and how Unity's trying to approximate that without any kind of help. Okay, that's audio. In the next video that I'll record in a little bit, we'll talk about music and getting, again, that word is non-diegetic. That means just music that you're listening to that's not actually in your scene. It's just like background music or something, or ambient. You could have like wind or something like that would work too. And then actually how to control that audio. So like I said at the beginning of this video, that like if I want to grab this or do something, play audio when I touch it or pick it up or whatever, like how does that work in Unity and the XR kit? Okay, so it's a brief overview. Again, lots of this stuff we can go into more detail, especially if your project is more audio focused or audio centric. So just let me know if you have questions, and I'll see you in the next video.